14 people were killed in boating accidents last year and dozens more were injured. We'll talk with a Water Patrol officer about boating safety coming up.
Maplewood officers cross the line once again. We'll tell you what that's all about on this edition of Your Police Report.
Hello and welcome to Your Police Report. We're coming to you from beautiful Spoon Lake. I'm Carrie Crotty.
And I'm Lon Bakey. Days like today is what many Minnesotans dream of in January. Put more people on the local lakes and it can lead to potential dangers.
We'll be talking with a safety official in just a little while. But first, an increase in opiate use is leading to an increase in heroin addiction.
Area law enforcement are concerned, and as a result, they've assembled a group to speak out about the dangers of addiction. Producer Mary Klein and photographer Nick Anderson have that story.
You always knew when Ryan was here. I used to say it was like a freight train coming through the house because his presence was just everywhere. I think about the times that, him sitting at the breakfast bar, telling jokes, and sometimes they were inappropriate, but that's how he would try and get a rise out of you.
Lori Lewis has known the role of wife, mother, and nurse well, but these days she finds herself in a very different position, one she never imagined.
Please welcome Lori Lewis as she comes forward.
She's reaching out publicly to discuss the dangers of heroin, but it's what happened in her home where this new and heartbreaking chapter began. Her oldest son, Ryan, battled a heroin addiction for several years, a battle he ultimately lost.
He told me that Ryan had overdosed, and, for me, I just thought, okay, well, that's happened twice before that I know of, so what does that mean, and then he told me he had died, and at that point, it's just, you want so bad to be back a minute before, and, it was just hard to hear. I was in shock, because there was no more helping.
And Lori struggled to help Ryan when she first learned he was using heroin. After several overdoses and several stays in treatment facilities, he died just days after entering a sober house.
I'm sure he just thought he could use one more time. That's what he would tell us before is, I want to quit. I want to try and get through this and have a life of recovery, but it's so hard. And I'm sure he thought he could do it just one more time. So our lives are not the same. It's a struggle every single day, and that's why we're talking about it and being very open, is because we don't want any other family to have to go through this.
As part of a community partnership, Lori has teamed up with law enforcement to bring awareness to the dangers of addiction.
He then told me that my son was dead. He died that morning of a heroin overdose.
With drug abuse spiking in the past several years, the forums are designed with a specific message. Addiction can happen to anyone.
A lot of people are just unwilling to say. They're saying my child's an honor student, my child's involved in sports and activities, and as a parent I can understand that and say that's what you want for your child, is to be involved in other activities, and you hope that they stay away from some of the dangers that we'll talk about today. What we're seeing is that just isn't the case.
I just have always been genetically predisposed to addiction.
The increase in heroin use in large part stems from prescription drugs, whether prescribed, purchased, or stolen. According to the Ramsey County Medical Examiner, opiate-related overdose deaths increased in 2014 from 37 to 42. But when the pills run out and the money to get them, abusers find heroin is a much cheaper alternative. At least 11 of these deaths involved heroin, and in Washington County, heroin deaths increased from 1 to 4 in 2014.
then the next logical thing is to jump over to heroin. And that is a jump because now you're going from, popping a pill and there's that stigma that goes with it to either snorting something or eventually shooting it. But once you take that first shot in there, that high, people have described it to me as being so much better than popping the pills that you just instantly, it's there. And it's cheap now and it's pure.
School resource officers John Somweber and Isaac Tuma say historically pot is the most frequently abused illegal substance among teens.
They always start out talking about it as marijuana. Why? Because it is the most frequently used illicit drug in the world.
Somweber says 4 years ago, students may have heard of heroin, but likely never saw it or knew someone using. But times have changed. The increase of H on the street may be a direct link to the shift.
We've seen a very drastic increase in the number of heroin incidents that, as a police department, we respond to. Where when I started as a police officer in 2003, we would maybe have 1, 2, or 3 heroin-related incidents in a year. In the time that's expanded since then to now, I'd say that we maybe have 2 or 3 heroin-type incidents a month.
Yeah, growing up. I mean, I kind of had a rough childhood.
Corey Clementson is sober and has been for over 4 years, but it took decades of addiction to bring about change.
I remember the movie Drugstore Cowboys came out when I was 12. And I saw Matt Dillon shooting Dilaudid in the back seat of the car, and I knew then. They have the DARE program or whatever says, nobody ever says they're going to be a junkie when they grow up or whatever. And I knew then that I was going to be walking down that road,
Corey's evolutionary journey into drugs began with alcohol as a child, and when he started using heroin, he often used alcohol and other narcotics simultaneously, causing him to overdose multiple times.
The actual experience of overdosing it's nil. It's a blackout. So there's no.
You don't remember.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You hit a blackout period, and then a knockout period, and then respiratory depression, and of course, if you do enough, you skip the first 2 steps and you go right to the other.
Officials say what makes heroin so deadly is failing to realize its potency, and in overdose cases, using the wrong amount.
It's something your body builds a tolerance to. So day one, maybe you use 1 ml, for example, which is 1/5 of a teaspoon. By the time that you're a month or 3 months into it, you're gonna need enough 5 or 10 mLs to go ahead and get that same feeling. And so somebody who's using it and says, here, I'll share it with you, they're already tolerant. And if they'd give it to somebody who's what we call opiate naive or has not used to having those types of drugs and not developed tolerance, that dose can kill them.
Survivors, those left behind after a fatal overdose, often wonder what they could or should have done differently, questions Lori Lewis asks herself every day.
Holidays and family get-togethers are very, very hard.
Ryan would have been 24 this past March, and though Lori has made her family's story very public, they endure a very private struggle.
His sister asked if she could have that, and she wants to learn how to play guitar too.
She hopes by helping other families avoid her painful reality, she may begin a new chapter of healing, hope, and change.
I think about him every minute of every day, and that's hard too because I'm so consumed with it.
They pointed out in the story that other substances like alcohol and marijuana are still the most used and abused substances. Do you find that as a school resource officer?
I do. Another one is the controlled substances, the medications that kids take. Sometimes it's theirs and sometimes it's not.
Sure.
And they're a little hard to detect, but I think that is just as dangerous, if not more so.
Oh, absolutely. Well, shifting gears, Governor Mark Dayton signed a bill in May designating Trunk Highway 36 in Maplewood to be named Sergeant Joseph Bergeron Memorial Highway.
Representative Leon Lilly and Senator Chuck Uyghur authorized the legislation, which unanimously supported by Minnesota House of Representatives and the Senate. And that really doesn't happen too often.
No, it's not often that they unanimously agreed, yeah.
Now you were there, right?
I was there for the Senate hearing.
Okay.
Yep.
And what was that like to watch the vote?
It was really very interesting. I've never, been to something like that, and it was really, you watch the green lights flick up on the panel, and
Especially something that's so close to home.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
pretty
it
cool.
was really nice, and we appreciate it.
Yep, glad you could be there for it. We're gonna take a break, but we'll head on to the lake when we return.
So, April.
Yeah?
You know your charger's still using energy when it's plugged into the wall, right?
Yeah, but that's not my charger. I don't even have a cell phone.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
Last year, 14 people died in boating accidents and dozens others were injured.
And we're here with Commander John St. Germain with the Ramsey County Water Patrol, who's here to give us some tips and give us some safety clues.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
What is the Water Patrol unit responsible for?
The Sheriff's Office Water Patrol unit is responsible for the safety of all the lakes and waterways in Ramsey County. There's about a dozen lakes that we actively patrol, and there's 18 miles of river, Mississippi and Minnesota River, that we actually patrol regularly down there.
Awesome.
And what are some of the most important tips that you have for the boaters that are out here?
Just be careful as you're boating safety. Wear your life jackets, have the proper equipment. Be careful or beware of your other boaters out here and the swimmers, and just enjoy yourself when you're out in the lakes.
Can you talk a little bit about drinking and boating?
Out here in the lakes, just like driving on the streets, is you should have a designated driver, have a responsible adult that can actually operate the boat for you. And when you're out in the lake, that sun really takes a lot of energy out of you, so you don't realize that your reaction's getting slower. Mm-hmm. So we just say that everyone just enjoy the lakes and just drink responsibly if you're drinking out here.
And you talked a little bit about the life jackets. Is that probably one of the rules that's most frequently ignored?
Yes, we find that quite a bit. We have people that have, when they're boaters, they don't have enough life jackets or not proper sizes. They have to be ready accessible. A lot of times we'll come up to the boat and they'll have either life jackets still in the package from the store, and that's not ready accessible, or buried in the bottom of their boat somewhere with all the equipment, skis on top of it. So they have to have it where they can get at it quickly. And
Sure.
so all the proper sizes they need to have for that. That's a very common one we see all the time out here on the lakes.
And do you conduct random searches?
We don't usually do random. What we do is if we see a boater having a violation or some issues, we'll stop and talk to them, and we'll check. At that time, we'll ask them if they have all the proper equipment, if they have the proper life jackets, if they have a fire extinguisher, ready to have one, throwable life preserver if they need one of those for the size of the boat. So we'll check. There's a series of safety checks we'll do on the boats when we do stop and talk to them.
Okay.
Now, if you're like street officers, we don't want to give tickets, but I'm sure that's something that you do if you need to.
Yes, we do. That's ultimately, if we have to, we'll write a citation. We try to educate the boaters best as possible. When we talk to them, we'll explain the rules. A lot of them don't understand the rules. They buy a boat and they don't have to take any kind of test, and they get out in the boat and they don't know the rules of the lake or the boating rules. So when we're out there, if we can educate them, we'll try that. If it ultimately comes down to, we'll actually issue them a citation. So we do that quite often too. So our goal is just to have safe boaters out here on the lakes and everyone enjoy themselves.
Do you also conduct search and rescue operations, and if so, are those year-round or just during the summer?
No, we do it year-round. It's either open lakes when the water's in the summer. We'll do search and rescue operations, and in the winter too, when the lakes freeze open, we have people fall through the ice. The cars go through the ice. So we quite often, actually, almost the winter, we seem to do more search and rescue than the summer at times. We've been lucky for the last few summers. We've had very few drownings, which is very, very lucky for us, and we hope to have none, but that doesn't happen. But when we do happen, we are out here until we resolve the issue or find the victim.
Sure.
Other than being stuck with Carrie and I, what are your biggest challenges out here?
It comes back down to is the boaters that are novice boaters that really don't understand the boating rules, and that is the biggest one we have out here. Where they don't realize what the rules are. They're driving their boats or personal watercraft too close to other boats or swimming beaches. So we have to really actively watch for those and try to get those people to understand what the rules are for doing the safe boating on lakes.
All right, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the viewers?
Just one thing is, again, make sure you have the right life jackets, ones that fit properly, that just fit snugly, but comfortable on you, and that just go out and enjoy yourself and have a good time on the lakes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Commander.
You're welcome.
Well, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll tell you why a show didn't stop because of the rain.
When life's this hard, graduating can be even harder. But you can help Jose and the students in your community make it through by visiting boostup.org.
Welcome back. Maplewood Police, city officials, family and friends did not let the rain stop them from raising money for a great cause.
The crew gathered at the Maplewood Mall for the Maplewood 5K Torch Run for Special Olympics. Team Bacon Bits, led by Team Captain Commander Shortreed, raised some cash for the cause.
The event raises money and awareness for the Special Olympics movement. Every year it gets bigger. Over $42 million have been raised by law enforcement nationwide since 2012.
Of course, the Torch Run is just one of several events the Maplewood Police Department takes part in. They raise money year-round, and the annual golf tournament will be the next big event. Great work.
Well, child hunger doesn't slow down in the summer. In fact, 1 in 5 Minnesota families don't have enough to eat.
Here in Maplewood, an agency is helping to bring that number down. Take a look.
Hunger is sort of a hidden epidemic, and we often maybe think that hunger is far away from us, but in reality, hunger is very close to us.
Laurel Fedema is the Community Engagement Officer for Second Harvest Heartland and says Heartland serves about 400 agencies in Minnesota. They act as a wholesale distributor to food shelves and meal programs in 41 counties. And they're asking for your help during the summer months when many children are at risk of going hungry.
In Minnesota, about 320,000 kids rely on free and reduced lunches in schools during the school year. So you can imagine that when school lets out, these kids are more at risk for hunger, and there's more instability for them on where that meal will come from. So being able to support kids during the summer is really important.
Second Harvest Heartland relies on donations of food, money, and time. Tens of thousands of people volunteer at the Maplewood and Golden Valley locations, and the agency couldn't exist without them.
We just sort it out into separate boxes.
Joyce Crosstag volunteers at the Maplewood location twice a week and has been for 3 years. She's retired and was looking for a way to spend her time helping others while also helping herself.
As you get older, you know, your friends, you lose your friends, you know, little by little. And so coming here, I just made lots of new friends.
Second Harvest Heartland posts volunteer opportunities on their website, as well as specific items they need to be donated. Fedema reminds people, even though summer is a busy time, to remember those who need help.
We all have to pack a lot into those really precious summer months. What I would say is take a minute. If you have children, this is a really great teachable moment to have kids helping kids.
For more information or to find out how you can help, check out the Second Harvest Heartland's website.
Distracted drivers kill 70 people every year in Minnesota. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety shows us how much pain one bad decision can cause.
We were the perfect match. We were soulmates. She loved her family more than anything. We'll miss her forever.
It should never happened.
I can still see her laying on the side of that road.
This is gonna follow me for the rest of my life.
It's tough. It's tough.
I made a mistake that day that I can never take back.
It's lonely. Very lonely. I remember the day of the crash. It was June 30th, and Andrea had the day off and was going to spend it with her girls that day. I was in one of our grain bins, and all of a sudden my mom called on the 2A and said, "Matt, where are you at?" And I could hear it on her voice that something was very wrong, because Mom said Andrea and the girls were in an accident. And I knew they were on the bike, so I knew it wasn't going to be good. We went out to the crash site. It was difficult. I could see they were doing CPR on Andrea. I was kind of collecting my thoughts and saying some prayers, and then the fire chief came and said that we had lost Andrea, and it was tough. And the shock started. And then I remember the phone call coming in and saying that I had to get to the hospital. My little Claire, who was 4 at the time, was not okay. She had 5 broken ribs and a punctured lung, and some cracked vertebrae in her neck. And she was intubated. To see that little girl with the tubes and everything is just something no father should ever have to go through. To see the fear in your 4-year-old's eyes and the quivering of her lip just is beyond anything that anyone should have to go through. I think she knew Mom was gone, but yet, as a father, you still had to tell her her mom was gone. That day when Andrea was riding her bike, she was doing everything right. But Chris that day was doing something unsafe. He was looking at his phone and ultimately hit my girls. And it hurts.
I don't know what I was doing for that second where I did not see her. Besides, I knew I was on my phone. I remembered that I had to make a payment on a loan, and I thought, what better time to do it now? If I forget, I won't remember to do it later. And so I decided to pick up my phone and started dialing. Next thing I knew is I heard a thud. I don't know if I looked down on my phone for a split second, and I heard a thud. And I looked up in my rearview mirror and I saw a bicycle. And I knew right away it wasn't good. I never saw her one time. I stopped the vehicle as quick as I could. I started running back towards the bicycle.
911, where's your emergency? There's a girl in the bed. I think they hit by a car. We need, you need the ambulance? She's not breathing good at all. We need an ambulance or something really fast. She's not breathing.
My thoughts were, what the hell have I done? How did I not see her? No doubt in my mind, it was my fault. I was on the phone. I was driving. I was in control. It was my fault.
Mr. Weber, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have a lawyer present now or any time during questioning.
And just a reminder, it's against the law to text behind the wheel in Minnesota, and that includes when you're stopped at stoplights. Check out more information on distracted driving.
Sergeant Joseph Bergeron's twin daughters had a whole lot of people cheering for them as they received their diplomas from YPR Lake High School.
We'd like to congratulate them and wish them the best of luck as they enter a new chapter in their lives. And we'd like to wish you a safe and happy summer.
Thanks for watching this edition of Your Police Report. We'll see you next time.